In this tutorial, we're going to go over how you can make custom blueprint coding and additions to your avatars. So what you're going to need first is a working avatar, and we're going to create our own blueprint class. So we can right click in the editor content browser here, go to blueprint class at the top, pick actor, just rename this something. And in our character blueprint that we previously have, I'm going to open that up. Click on our character mesh here, or select from our left side drop down, and we want to add what's called a child actor component onto this. So add component, search for child actor, and in its details on the right side under child actor class, we want to pick the blueprint class that we just created. Then compile and save that. Now the important step is whenever you modify this blueprint directly, you have to drag and drop it back into the avatar setup section, and that will then populate the changes to the data assets. Save. Now in our blueprint that we created, we can start adding in some code. So on our begin play here, we want to enable input to this actor so that we can press buttons on our controls or keyboard and call functions. So we'll drag off this node here and type in enable player input. Now you don't want to use the standard enable input that comes in the engine, as this is blocked for security reasons, and this handles some extra stuff locally for you. And we also want to grab our parent character, so we can do that by go get parent character, and we can store this as a variable. And we can also get our body mesh, click on get character mesh. Also store this slider as well. Now say you want to trigger something on a keyboard event. So with this, I'll just add in a key event here by searching for H, keyboard. And on pressed, I'll spawn something in, so spawn actor from class. And I'll just use a cheese wheel from previous. And for spawn transform, you always need a transform when you're spawning something. So I'll make a transform. And I'll grab our player variable here. Get the camera. Get the camera's location in the world. And also get its forward vector. Multiply the forward vector a bit just to push the spawn location in front of us. And then add the two together. Set that as the location. And now we can test in the editor with our character assigned. So, see, as we press the H key, we're spawning a cheese wheel. So that is the most basic form of handling input and custom events with your own blueprint coding on your character. You can also set morph targets and things on your character as well. So if you want to set a blend shape / morph target on your character, you can get the body mesh here, go set morph target. And this morph target will be the name of the blend shape / morph target that you're using, and then the value. And if you want to add in additional meshes and things, it's just basically the same procedure. You can add another component up the top left here. So I'm going to add in a skeletal mesh. Set its mesh. I'll save that. And if I want to set the initial bone and transform that it's attached to on our character, we open back up our character blueprint here and select our child actor component. And under its parent socket, we'll select the hand. Nope, one. And then rotate this as the initial transform. Compile and save. And since we modified this base blueprint, we do have to drop it back into the avatar setup. I can press play again, and we have the shotgun in our hand. So that's the most basic form of adding additional things to your characters. I'll go over some more advanced handling now of replication and such, which you can skip if this is all you wanted to learn. So if you're going to want to replicate the events that you're calling for spawning things or setting stuff, so that other people can see what you're doing, you're going to want to need the reg system or replicated global event actor. So add another component in here. It's type for REGH, reg actor. The important thing with this component is firstly you're going to want to generate a new unique ID for it. So click unique ID over on the details panels here, drop down, click generate. We can command save that. And the important thing with this is that any events you start binding and calling, you need to do on the component initialization. So when you have the component selected and under events, just drag that over there so you can see. Under the component details under events, I want to click this plus here to add in this event on initialized. Now with our on initialized event, for our reg component, we're going to want to bind the events that we want to be able to call. So drag a pointer off into the graph here, our component, type in bind event by name. And this event name here is going to be the unique name of the function that we're going to want to call. So with this, I'll just drag off the pin, add in a custom event. Now it's important that the name of this event is not the one that you link to it. The name of this doesn't matter. But for this, I'm going to call this on spawn cheese. And when this event gets called, I want to do the actual function of spawning the cheese. So I'm going to come up here to our spawn cheese event, and instead of linking it to our input key, I'll just drag that aside. I will instead add a custom function in here again and call this do spawn cheese. Link that up there. Now off of our bound event here, I will then type in do spawn cheese. Now instead of calling our do spawn cheese manually from a function or a keyboard input, whatever we want, I will instead call this bound event we have here. So I'll just copy its name and grab another pointer to our component. I'll type in call event by name. And I'll put in the name of what we bound over here. And they must be unique between functions that you bind and call. Now I'll compile and save this. And test it in editor. So we're still spawning cheese. Our client view over here, we can see the client now sees them spawning cheese as well. Now just be wary with testing this networking stuff in the editor, it's not particularly designed for it. So that is the basic cycle of creating and calling custom events across the network on your custom characters. You want to bind the input, grab your player references, bind the functions you're going to want to call through the reg component, do the actual function when the event gets called, and you can call it locally through input events or whatever else. And just some further notes for a more technical overview. You can send through custom data with this bound event by name, or calling event by name. This is a byte, so this can be any number from 0 to 255. Beyond that, it'll just get clamped to 255. So you can pass in any information through that, and it will get sent through here. So you could convert this to an integer or enum if you have custom enums. I have an enums in here. We'll just convert it to a random enum here, and I can type in switch on that. And now I can perform different functions or events based on the information that I pass through using the switch and branch out here. Or you could convert this to an integer. And then do whatever you want with your integers here. Another function you can bind here is a reliable event. Now this one has a few limitations on how often it can be called and how much data can be sent. So we can bind another event here called bind event by name reliable. And it's the same process. Except with this one, you get an array of strings that you can send through. So if I were to call this on my end, I could then pass up any arbitrary information I want through these strings. Could be numbers, words. We could probably send chat messages directly to people using this. Yeah, just whatever you can fit into a string in there. These are limited to 255 characters length for each one. And same with this array length, it's limited to 6. And that should cover the more technical aspect of using this global event replicator here. These, of course, can be blocked by people's security settings. So if they turn off spawning or whatever they want, then the person who has their security settings disabled for this won't see any of this happen or at all. And if they're strict about it, even this custom blueprint that you created here won't get spawned in on their character. All they'll see is your mesh. And that should cover it for this.